The new patch for Granblue Fantasy Relink just dropped last night, and with it came some insane patch notes that I feel like people aren't really understanding the gravity of. There were some very big changes in the patch notes, and some of those changes have completely altered characters for the time being. Some characters got some bug fixes that were much needed, but other characters got massively nerfed. Now, Granblue and Psy Games have been very careful not to tell the exact numbers of some of these changes, which I think is in their best interest because I think they would get a whole hate mob sent at them. But also some of the changes were just straight up bug fixes that ended up making the characters way less playable to their original potential. Or in other words, working as intended. So let's go ahead and take a look at the patch notes. Hello. I was gonna have my camera on for this video, but I forgot to turn it on before I started recording. So it is what it is. Here's the important stuff. First off, added a new challenge quest. This is your Lucilius editions, adding new sigils, adding new trophies. They also added some quality of life stuff like camera sensitivity and aim sensitivity, vertical and horizontal movement speed, and increasing the cap. Some better camera smoothing and battle camera correction to game options, which is pretty cool. And then they also did some other quality of life, like quick quests now include proud difficulty. So if you've been spamming the quick quest thing, you can now get some actually pretty difficult missions, which is cool. They also made it so that now you can actually see which items came from chests, which I think is just a good general quality of life change. Now, before we get to the character changes, there were some power adjustment tweaks and things like that. Some bug fixes about some auto-targeting related things on specific fights. Nerfing link time, which I just think is like, okay, whatever. Fuck me, I guess. Just fixing the camera lock on during Bahamut is really nice. And then also adding a visual and audio indicator to notify a player if their buffs have been removed. This is actually going to be super helpful for fights going forward. However, I want to focus more on the characters because this is what matters. So I'm not going to go over every single detail for every character, but essentially the captain got some adjustments. Captain was absolutely insanely good as a support and could deal some solid damage. And they've basically changed all of the skill cooldowns and SBA gauge fill rate for captain just to make sure they can balance out this new thing, which is making it so that hits that raise your arts level now extend the time before arts level actually resets from activating a skill. So to balance this out, they've changed a lot of things about the captain. They also fixed a bug for a lot of characters. You're going to see this a lot. Fixed a bug that prevented Jita from dodging right after performing an aerial barrage. A lot of characters for some reason couldn't dodge right after performing an aerial barrage. I'm not really sure why. But yeah, Captain is getting some adjustments. So the biggest ones, though, in my opinion, is there's a bunch of characters that have been specifically bug fixed in a way that makes their damage massively drop. One example is Katalina. And actually, Katalina is not even the biggest example of this. Fixed a bug where certain skills that provide a combo skip effect after activation wouldn't need to be fully activated to provide the effect. So for those of you who don't know what this means, essentially all of your initial animation cancels that you could do and skill cancels that you could do to try to get Ares up faster no longer work. And I will show you exactly what I mean. So I don't know how many of you know about this, but I'm just going to show you for the sake of example. Basically, when you use an ability with Katalina, you can do a combo finisher. That combo finisher is going to fill up a lot of your gauge, almost half of it, right? So basically you could just do one of those skills and it would fill up half your gauge after you do a combo finisher. And I'll show you right here. You can do this, Frozen Blade, combo finisher, boom. That's half your gauge, and then you only have to do 2 of those, you get Ares. So what you used to be able to do is with specific skills, Enchanted Lands and Winter's Reign, you were able to animation cancel out of them and still get the combo finisher. So it would look like this, dodge, and you go straight into your combo finisher instead of Oathsworn Blade. Essentially, this would save you 1 to 2 seconds on getting Catalina's gauge to full, and it was a super valuable resource because by skill canceling this, you could keep the cooldown of it. It wouldn't do any damage, but you could keep the cooldown of it and go straight into your combo finisher. It was a high-level Catalina tech that allowed you to play her more optimally if you knew what you were doing, and I really like that. I like when techs are in games because it allows you to learn more about characters and be rewarded more for learning more about those specific characters. But now, if you do that same combo, it doesn't work anymore. You just don't use the ability and you go straight into Oathsworn Blade. Now I can show you what happens if I use the ability, but you cannot cancel out of it without it not using the ability anymore. A bit of a shame for Katalina mains, and this is not even the tip of the iceberg. So this affects Katalina, but it also affects a lot more characters. For example, it also affects Percival, who gained a large portion of damage from being able to use those skill cancels into different combos. Percival got hit by it, which really sucks for Percy mains. Bane also got hit, but his name isn't really formatted right on the patch notes, so it's kind of hard to tell. Id got hit with this. I personally don't play a lot of Id, so I don't really know what the value of that is, but basically no more skill canceling on Id, and no more skill canceling on Vazaraga. And again, I don't really play enough Vazaraga to know exactly how impactful that is, but I can tell you that if they fixed the skill cancel, that means it was evident enough that it was possible and that it was game changing for them to go in and want to change it. Side Games basically said, hey, you guys are going to play this game exactly as we intended it. No text or anything. You're going to take the characters as they are. You're going to learn to play them with their optimal combos without any text and L. Basically, is what they said. Now, Katalina did get a slight buff in that she gets more SBA gauge whenever Ares is summoned, specifically from link attacks. It's not going to make a massive difference, but it is a little nice. But overall, Katalina nerfs. For sure, Katalina nerfs. Another character that got absolutely throttled is Rackam. Now, Rackam only got throttled for certain content. Let me explain exactly what happened. First off, they fixed some bugs that ended up helping his kit a little bit more. For example, Bullseye Blast now does not charge to a lower level when playing online. He now gets durations effect when he's under invincibility. These were two bugs that made Rackam not as good. However, they did two changes that are pretty massive to him. They fixed a bug that caused the damage cap of aerial barrages to work incorrectly. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Rackam actually had the highest record for damage against Sir Beryl, the dummy, because he had this bug where his aerial barrages would deal like 2 million damage per shot. I'm not sure exactly how this happened. I just assumed that he was overtuned. But if you want a general comparison of how much damage this was, the record that I saw without glass cannon, by the way, was about 82 million damage over 60 seconds. To put that in perspective, Katalina with a fully maxed out build was hitting about 33 million damage without glass cannon. So Rackam was dealing quite a lot. Other characters were usually sitting around the 30 million range. Some characters got up to 40 and 50 million, but the highest I saw was 50 million outside of his 82 million. So basically, big change for Rackam. People would spam this on Bahamut and they would just absolutely obliterate him. He would just get decimated. And now Rackam is not going to be able to sit there and spam that and dish out that much damage. It looks like now his damage cap is going to work, which is a huge L for Rackam players because truthfully, though he is a ranged character and he gets basically full uptime all the time, his damage is a little bit undertuned compared to other characters with the exception of that aerial barrage. And if you were able to only hit one of those aerial barrages every now and then, you were still able to keep up a ton of damage. Now that's going to be rough. They've made this change to Rackam where they're going to fix some bugs, but they fixed one of the bugs that was basically making him very viable. And then they also lowered the damage cap of one of his abilities. So the Rackam players, I'm sorry, that shit sucks. Eo barely got any changes. Eugen got a bunch of fixes though. If you guys are playing Eugen, if you guys enjoy playing his character, he had a lot of bugs that were negatively impacting his DPS. And now a lot of them have been fixed. For example, 2 grenade bugs have been fixed. One is they wouldn't stick, and the other one is that they were less powerful under certain conditions, which I'm assuming was actually more than one, because otherwise I feel like they would have specified what the conditions were. But basically, grenade buffs. And by buffs, I mean they were fixed. This also makes AI Eugen even stronger, and AI Eugen was already one of the best AI companions. Zeta and Eugen are 2 of the top tier, and this just makes them even better. So if you're farming Lucilius, using AI Eugen is really good. A lot of characters also got this change where they would basically get an extended window for finishing their combos. I think this is pretty helpful. A lot of players that are probably not used to this style of game would struggle to do their combos at the right time, and this seems like it's going to help that. Also, you'll see it again, fixing Garagoza dodging right after an aerial barrage. It's for some reason, it's a really common bug. For Rosetta, we got a couple bug fixes. The effect provided by enhanced roses wouldn't trigger for replanted roses in link time, and now it's going to re-trigger, which is nice. I really wish Rosetta had an easier time proccing supplementary damage. I think that would be a really good fix for her, but it looks like right now they're just focused on the bug fixes. And finally, I think the biggest loser of all of these changes, I think the biggest loser is Ferry. And I hate it. I'm so sad about it because I loved how unique Ferry's playstyle was. Well, okay, to be fair, I feel like the aerial barrages are a little overtuned. I'm not gonna lie, the aerial barrages are a little silly. I think doing jump and attack spam the entire fight is a little strange. But the one thing that I think made Ferry very unique was her ability to constantly SBA very fast, chain, stun enemies, and help the rest of your teammates get SBA as well by spamming their SBA. Basically, Ferry was a Skybound Arts machine, and now it feels like she's a little bit less effective at that because they lowered the SBA gauge fill rate given by launch attacks and aerial barrages for Ferry, which was one of the biggest reasons that you would play her with that aerial playstyle, and one of the biggest reasons she was able to spam it so much. They also fixed quite a few bugs for Ferry and her pets, which is nice. I do think that's a dub. But all in all, the SBA gauge nerf thing really sucks. I wish we had numbers on it, but we just don't. But I can tell you, after playing Ferry in-game with Uplift, it is not the same as it used to be. I don't think Ferry is unplayable by any means. I think Ferry just now is going to have a bit of a different play style than SBA spam. Maybe she will still be SBA spam, but it's not going to be as noticeable of a difference between her and other characters now. And maybe Ferry is just going to do more damage. What I would like to see is onslaught buffs for Ferry, because her signature is literally based around onslaught, and it feels like that ability just doesn't do enough damage as is. So rip Ferry mains, but also welcome new Ferry mains that are here for the damage. And the other biggest loser, in my opinion, is Zeta. Unfortunately, Zeta main's midriff was bugged, and now she cannot trigger her loop combo off of supplementary damage, which means she loses a lot of damage. Granted, it's not like gonna kill the character or anything, but it's a pretty big damage loss for Zeta mains. And yeah, that feels so bad. They fixed some other damage cap bugs where basically some skills would supersede other skills damage caps. And you can see that on a few of these different characters. If you guys want to see the patch notes yourself, I'll link them in the description. But all in all, it looks like this patch was meant to do a few things. One, it was meant to test the waters with a new boss that's very, very challenging. I love Lucilius. I think that he's going to be very easy after like a week. After people get the new sigils, after people get used to fighting him and his attack patterns, and after people figure out that you could just use AI and clear it in like 6 minutes and the AI never die or anything, so you only have your own health bar to worry about, he's going to be pretty easy. But I do like the level of challenge raised from Bahamut. I think it was a good change. Personally, I think it was good. And as they add more bosses and new gear, they're going to add bosses that are harder than Lucilius, and Lucilius is going to become easier because we have new bosses that are going to give us better gear and stuff, and that's how the game works. Is this power creep? Maybe, but like you don't have to pay for it, so who cares? This patch was definitely focused towards bug fixing and adding in the first piece of major new content. And now what I'm hoping they'll do with this is, now that all of the bugs are tackled, I hope they will go and tackle balance. I don't think any characters are unplayable, but there are definitely characters that feel worse to play than other characters. There are characters that are very high skill for low reward in comparison to other ones. And I believe what they were doing is trying to fix all the bugs to reassess characters' damage. Because if they fixed all the bugs and they adjusted numbers, it could end up making things even worse, way out of whack, way out of balance. So I think it's a good first step if they are trying to balance the game. However, my heart goes out to everyone that was using all of these techs to try to improve their gameplay, because I do think that those were very fun, and I am sad to see them go. Especially now because I have to remake my Katalina guide, and that for me is going to take a long time. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of the patch notes. Overall, this patch is a dub in my opinion, but it also shows what they are planning on doing. It looks like they do want to fix the game, and they probably do want to balance things once all the bugs are removed. So I think it's good of them to look at that. I'm sad about the techs. I will miss them. I like having high skill expression in my games, but if they're looking to balance the characters post bug fixes, I think it'll be fine. There are two more things that are very important that I hadn't talked about yet, because I wanted to save the very best for last. If you have not completed all of your masteries yet on all of your characters, they adjusted the speed of the masteries cursor. You're gonna move so much faster on the mastery screen now. And the most important one, the parrot has been nerfed. Rest in peace, unbelievable, and welcome in a new era of quieter parrot. They also mentioned on their Twitter, by the way, just in case you guys are wondering, they also mentioned on their Twitter that they are going to be adding a mass transmute sigil option in the future. They don't have it right now, but they are adding it. So anyways, yapping too long. I'll see you guys in the next one.